Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 251 to 252 for the 1st and 2nd of November. And there will be some information from the 3rd of November, which is today, because we are already in the late afternoon in Ukraine. So let's start off with more information from the Russian Ministry of Defense. They say that 87,000 troops out of the 300,000 is already in Ukraine. That is still not 1/3 of the total force. And apparently, all the information saying that they will be trained for 2 weeks is not true, because they seeming to be training a lot longer than 2 weeks, which means that Russia may not feel so urgent, about the situation on the ground, and it does seems to be the case where the Ukrainians did not have a breakthrough ever since the first few forces of reinforcements has arrived at the front, which is why I think they wanted to take more opportunity, more time to properly train the troops, who many of them might actually already left the force for too long, maybe 10 years, 15 years, maybe, or even 20 years, where they will be totally outdated, which is why maybe they want to go through more training, especially if they are handling heavy equipments or high-tech equipments, like surface-to-air missiles or tanks, armored vehicles, artillery. So I think that is actually what happening. And the threat of a winter offensive it start to look really likely, because to wait for the other 200,000 troops to come, I think that will take another 2-3 weeks of training, or even a month. And by the time they are out to the front, winter would have arrived, I guess. So moving on to the southern side, or the Odessa region, what the hell is wrong with this screen? Why is it keep coming up? So anyway, the Russians have resumed the grid. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, the menu just went nuts. So anyway, the Russians have resumed the Ukraine grain export arrangement, after they complained to the United Nations, and also getting some help from the Turkish government to ensure that Ukraine will go through with the deal. So Ukraine actually give a written guarantee that they will not use this export route for the ships to launch new attacks on the Russian side. So trust the Ukrainians at your own risk, I guess. I think it's a perfect opportunity for Ukraine to go for another go at the Black Sea Fleet. Over at the southern front, at the Mykolaiv Front, the Ukrainian forces launched an attack on Zeleny High on the 1st of November. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, there's nothing else on the Mykolaiv Front. Over at the Kherson Front. At the Kherson Front, the Ukrainians continue their super duper uber Kherson offensive. As you can see, there's a lot of icons. So there's 1 day, and then there's 3 days. All 3 days they are attacking. So on today, we are still seeing an attack on Sukhanove, and also at this location at Brskinsky. So, and also at Ischenka. So the fighting still is ongoing. The Ukrainians continue to push more or less the same places in the pincer movement, where ultimately they are trying to go south towards Berislav and go through following the two main roads towards Berislav. And however, there is a Ukrainian Mi-8 getting shot down over Kostyaka, and this is the wrong icon, but this is a Ukrainian Sukhoi 24 shot down over Apostolove, and this is the wrong icon, but it's a Sukhoi 24, a fighter bomber of the Ukrainian side, getting shot down. Both aircraft are shot down pretty far from the front, which means that there is no surface-to-air missiles near these locations, allowing the Russians able to take some air-to-air kills. Of course, I also do want to note that the Russians do not really need to fly into the Ukrainian controlled airspace, because they do have long-range missiles. And moving on to the Zaporizhzhia Line. At the Zaporizhzhia Line, the Russians actually shelled the position at Novosilka, close to Velika Novosilka, which is here. And the shelling is a response to a potential offensive being launched from the Novosilka region. However, with this shelling, this also indicates that Novosilka is actually under Ukrainian control, which previously was under kind of a gray zone because both sides was claiming the same location. So I've awarded this to the Ukrainian side and adjusted the front line accordingly. Moving on to the Donetsk Front. So you know, this is Donetsk Oblast if you're lost. Donetsk Oblast, and over here at the southwest side of Donetsk city. So that is Donetsk city. I don't know how to zoom in. So Donetsk city in the southwest of Donetsk city over here. The Russian offensive over at this front continues. There's fighting continue to be reported at Mykolaiv, and now fighting is now reported at Vodian, where the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reports they have repulsed Russian attacks over in the area of Vodian. And interestingly, the Russians still have not captured Pelivka. The reinforcement seems to be working, and however, the Russians are actually attacking at Przystivka. So the it's pretty precarious for the Ukrainian forces as the Russians are doing a major offensive across the entire front in this region. There are still limited fighting reported at Marinka on the 1st of November, although you know it was not reported to be fighting yesterday. Over at the Pisky region near Avdiivka, so Avdiivka is here. There's still fighting reported at Pervomayske, and there is a report of fighting near Avdiivka, according to War Gonzo. And that's all from this region, and that's all from the Donetsk Front. And over at the Bakhmut Front, the fighting resumes at Mayos. Somehow this seems to be a superb stronghold of the Ukrainians. The Russians still have not been able to penetrate through Mayos after combating the forces here for really a long time. And over at the Bakhmut city region, there's fighting reported at Bakhmut. No details are provided because the information coming from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry and War Gonzo is pretty vague. And there is fighting reported on the southern side of Opyne. So this is Opyne, and at the southern side of Opyne, the pro-Ukrainian source Deep State UA claimed that the Russian forces from the direction of Avdiivka launched an attack towards Opyne, and they have reportedly managed to come close to Opyne itself. How close is close, no idea, but that it simply means that there is fighting in the southern side of Opyne. This is exclusively reported by the pro-Ukrainian source. Over at the Siversk Front, the Russians also seems to be launching an offensive in this region, where there is fighting reported at Belohorivka, Verkhnokayamske, and Sperne over the past 2 days. And you can see that if you go by these three directions, it seems to be a major attack across the entire front, but no results just yet. The Ukrainian defenses held. And over at the Kreminna Front, very complicated. You can see a lot of icons in this region. The Ukrainian forces are continuing to push at Makivka and Shevonopopivka. Something new is that the Ukrainians is now pushing towards Ploshchanka, and there is fighting reported yesterday and even today. And at Makivka, the situation is a bit more complicated. There is fightings, attacks and counter-attack over the past 3 days. So you can see both colored icons happening at the same time. 5 different fighting icons over the past 2 days plus today. And there is also fighting reported at Nevsky. So so the one at Ploshchanka is in the direction. So even though I plot it in this place, the fighting might actually be here between Makivka and Nevsky. So take this with a pinch of salt. And If salt is too salty, you can try MSG. If not, you can just use your prawn crackers or your potato chips. Just crush it and then sprinkle it all over the region of Chervonopopivka. I heard Chervonopopivka is a red buttock, so sprinkle some potato chips at the red buttock might help with making it less red. And over at the Kupyansk Front, similarly, the Ukrainians are continue their major offensive in this region towards the eastern direction, and there is fighting continue to be reported at Kuzemivka. However, interestingly, the Russian Defense Ministry today reported that they defended against Ukrainian attack over at Novoselivsky. Previously, we reported Novoselivsky as captured by the Ukrainian forces, so this actually brings the settlement into question. This is actually the small town just next to Kuzemivka. So it could be a sign of there's a counteroffensive that we are not seeing from the Russian side. And over further up north, the Ukrainian seems to continue to push very heavily. This time around, fighting is reported at Yahidne, and we continue to see reports of fighting at Ulyansky as well as Mykolaiv. And there is nothing over at the Vorishna region except that the Ukrainians actually use boat crossings and to cross the Oskil River to reinforce Mykolaiv. And this also suggests that the Russians did not really push much out of Horobivka region. And this is rather unusual because I expected the Russians to actually do more major offensive, more attacks in this region. The lack of a Russian offensive may suggest that either the Russians do not have enough forces in this region, or there might be too much Ukrainian forces over at the Kupyansk Front, where the Russians will still need a lot more time to whittle them down through artillery and airstrike before they can launch an offensive. Not to mention that, of course, there is still 200 over 1,000 troops that are still not here yet. And just to add furthermore of my own estimation, the forces, the 300,000 is merely the partial mobilized troops. This does not include the contract soldiers. So there is still contract soldiers, the regular army soldiers, that is not accounted in these numbers. There is and also conscripts are also not within this numbers of troops that because conscripts are not really deployed here. And there is also the Wagner private military contractors, which are not accounted in the numbers, and also the militias from the Donbas region. The Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republic have their own militia forces, which is also not counted within this 300,000. The militia themselves probably is around 100,000 troops by now, and also that there is also the volunteer battalions, and which particularly the one have mobilized or encouraged by Kadyrov, the Chechen leader, that could account for another 150 to 180,000 troops. And the Chechen forces, I suspect, is also not part of the partial mobilization, and the Chechen forces themselves might actually also number between 50,000 to 100,000 troops in this region. So the numbers of Russian troops when all deployed, that means all the volunteer battalions, all the mobilized troops, all of the Donbas militias, everything in, we might actually see the Russian forces bloat into 600 to 700,000 troops. So that would mean that the Ukrainians will lose their numerical advantage. They will be pretty too close. The numbers will be very, very close. Not to mention the Ukraine seems to be losing a lot of forces due to all these offensive that had not borne fruits. From some information sources, it seems that the Ukrainians have started a new round of mobilization to deal with the situation on the ground, and so that is a wise move, because if the Ukrainians have numerical advantage now and they're still not making breakthroughs, if the number even out, they're gonna start losing. So mobilizing is definitely the right move to go forward. So anyway, this is the summary for the day of 251 and 252 1st to 2nd of November, and I'll see you in the next update. Press the like button.